Going on, everyone? I want to welcome EC Synkowski to the Mission Driven Made podcast. And thanks for being on the show, EC.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, of course. And you are known for a lot of things, including being the founder of Optimize Me Nutrition. But before we get there, I always love to hear about my guest's story. So if you can kind of paint us the picture of what it was like for you growing up until we'll say maybe somewhere around college, and then we'll kind of zoom into specific parts of your life.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try not to go too long on this one. Growing up, I was definitely the person who liked to do all of the things, right? So I loved being active. I played soccer and field hockey, and then lacrosse was my main sport because I'm from Maryland. So that's big here. And then once it was kind of getting into middle school and high school, it was all of the different clubs as well. So, whether or not that's part of either student government, or I think I was also doing like literary arts magazine and journalism in the newspaper. And then I was involved in art. I was into oil painting for a while. I also had a part-time job through high school. So definitely running around doing all of the different things. And so really liked staying busy and wearing lots of hats. Yeah.
Awesome. And then you're in high school, going into college. Did you immediately go into all of your nutritional sciences or studies from there? Or what did that look like?
Yeah, definitely not nutrition right away. I did an undergrad in, I call it biochemical engineering because I basically did a lot of biochem, but it was called biological resource engineering, which is how do you design systems that have biological components? So think about designing a greenhouse, right? You have to deal with plants might die.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a canning plant where what happens to the fruits and vegetables to get them in the jars, right? So engineering concepts as well as biological concepts. And so that was my undergrad, and it definitely did not have a nutrition component. I was still very active though through college, just doing my own working out and exercise. Yeah. I always loved that stuff. Yeah.
And before you started that degree, what got you interested in that? Was it something in high school with all the different activities that you were doing?
Maybe subconscious or unconsciously, I thought to do something like that. I was worried about what am I going to do with a degree after? So I wanted to have a degree that I thought was marketable. And I thought engineering was a strong bet. Engineers tend to have careers kind of laid out for them. And I think liked that security of it. But I also probably engineering didn't come as naturally to me. I liked the biological sciences. So this was my way to maybe, have a safe bet, but also do something that I enjoyed more.
Gotcha. And then how were you as a student? Were you very into school right away? Was it hard for you? Did you face challenges? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, I'm the type A student. So I'll admit it now, probably didn't admit it in college. I never missed a single class in any of my degrees, including optional discussions.
Awesome.
So I was that person. I had straight 8 a.m.s as a freshman. I went to all of them. I was always achieving, always doing well in classes. I was a teaching assistant for organic chemistry as an undergraduate. Like school is my jam. School is my jam, which is probably why I went on to have a few more degrees. I don't want to say it's always easy for me. I certainly spent a lot of time to make myself successful at it, but I kind of know how to do it, I would say.
And the mentality you had while you're in school being type A, like you're saying, did you kind of apply that to other areas in your life after school?
Yeah. I mean, there was always sort of this idea of, I want to be the best. And I think it was really from the standpoint of, wanting to understand it to that level. It wasn't necessarily from this, I have to be best because that's the status I get from getting a high mark or something like that. But it's because, am I really understanding this? Do I really know it at a level that's valuable to me? And so that was what kind of drove me in all of this stuff. It's do I really know what's going on? And so I think that's pervaded some of the rest of my career. Yeah.
Did you learn those values when you were younger, say even high school or before? Did you kind of always feel like that?
That's interesting. I don't know that I did. I think I think it's a pattern that set up as I was younger that was probably a little bit more externally focused on making sure, you get the good grades and you do the right thing. And so it set in motion a lot of really good habits that then I realized, oh, wow, those were actually valuable. That at first, when you're in middle school or stuff, you're thinking, oh, shoot, I want to get the good report card, right? But then as you see, wow, this can really be useful for my career or my passion, and that those habits are paying off. I think that's more of the evolution of it than something else. Yeah.
Yeah, I just asked because for me, when I was really young, I was really into sports also and kind of obsessive about getting better at it. But I just thought I was weird. I didn't know at the time other people kind of had similar mentalities like in school or your story, for example.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
And so after that, you went into getting your master's in, was it nutrition and functional medicine? Is that correct?
That's actually the second master's. So my first master's right after my initial undergrad, it's again, different title than how I explain it. It was in natural resource sciences, but I like to explain it as basically environmental sciences, but it still had a heavy biological component. So I was doing, looking at the genetics of plants that take heavy metals out of the ground. So you could use them for phytoremediation, kind of green technologies, and whether or not we could find genetic markers so that we could do breeding, so that we could make these plants be more effective in remediating polluted areas.
Awesome. And then what got you into your next path from there?
Yeah. So after kind of, college, right into that master's, it was, oh, shoot, I think I need to do the real world. Thought about going on for a PhD for sure. But I feel like you just don't start a PhD just because, there's funding or just because there's an interesting topic. Like you have to really want to do it. So that's when I decided to get a job, and I moved to Boston and was able to, through my engineering connections, start working in environmental consulting. And I did that for 7 years. I actually worked to help support an expert witness in litigation work. So
oh, wow.
Who pays to clean up these polluted sites? And so we would have to get him, court case testimony ready to be able to fight some of these big cases. Yeah, it was actually quite interesting. Really enjoyed it.
I've never heard of anyone doing that before, but that seems like very interesting work.
Yeah, I really loved the expert that I worked for in terms of some of the things that he taught me from a professional standpoint and how to present information. I think really shaped a lot of how I go about nutrition. And part of that is, we would do these cases for a jury trial. And so he would explain to us, you've got 12 people who have never thought about this concept in their life, never. You've got to convince them, the science and that we're right. And he would always say, the mind works in threes. Every court case can come down to 3 bullet points. I would give him drafts of things and he would say, what is this, a mystery novel? Make this more clear. And so he really shaped a lot of how I go about presenting information, because it was always drilling down to, does this matter? And is it convincing? Yeah.
So you learn how to speak like very articulate and concisely and to the point type of a thing.
Yeah, I would actually say my presentation abilities or whatever I have there actually came more from my CrossFit years. I think it's more of writing, and the way that I was thinking about problems came from him, because I didn't ultimately ever have to present. He did.
Oh, gotcha.
But how you would think about it and how you would transfer information and how to present it even visually would become a large part of our cases. And so then my ability to then convey that in a live audience, I think, came more with CrossFit and doing the seminars. Yeah.
Did you feel the pressure when you're having to present all this information to him in those 3 bullet points that you're talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was known as being a tough boss, but really enjoyed working for him. And I think it only made me better. And so there was pressure there. I mean, we worked for some really big clients, really well-known sites. And there's a lot on the line for sure.
And after 7 years of doing that, what happened next for you?
Yeah. So actually during that time, I had found CrossFit, kind of strolled into my first CrossFit gym, CrossFit Boston, early January 2nd, 2006. And of course, fell in love with it and went to my first seminar that year and even started on their staff that same year, although things looked much different in 2006.
On the CrossFit staff or the gym staff?
No, the CrossFit staff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your first, that is awesome.
Well, again, 2006 is a different era. So that happened in 2006, but my first paid gig was 2008. So things were different then. But yeah, fell in love right away. And so basically was kind of trying to make that work as a part-time thing on the side. And it did, and it became that as I continued to work in environmental consulting. And eventually CrossFit was just growing so big that I was able to come on full-time for an administrative position. So kept doing the seminars on the weekends, but then during the week I helped write their programs, work in translation, help make sure the program's accredited, build out various software products to help keep track of staff and events and all of this stuff. So the program, the position became very different, but that was the next step, was moving on to CrossFit. But it happened in a very gradual, organic way with the growth of the company. Yeah.
So when you were doing the seminars and also the administrative position for CrossFit, at that point, had you left your last career?
Yeah. So once CrossFit was able to bring me on full time to do the kind of Monday to Friday work is when I left environmental consulting. So I probably ended up doing seminar staff for 10 years, but 7 of that also had a full-time component.
What was the culture like in the beginning of CrossFit? Because I kind of picture how it is. Because just when I started CrossFit years ago, I remember walking in, I just loved the environment. There was this like community aspect. It was competitive at the same time, and I loved it. So how was it back then? Not just like in the gym, but like working for CrossFit. How was that for you?
It was great. Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was the same. It's very community vibe. You know, back in especially 2006, 2008, even 2010, there wasn't a lot. Well, 2010, there was already the games in Carson, but through that 2009 era, there wasn't a ton going on in the greater CrossFit community. And so this is where going back to the level 1 was the big event. It was kind of the Woodstock of fitness. In those early years, if you wanted to meet other CrossFitters, there wasn't another affiliate in your state. You'd go to these seminars all over the country. And like I said, the first 2 years, I would do it on my own dime just to be part of it. So I think it's the same now. I think the community is still very welcoming, and you still know that you're part of something great. It's just that it's just happening on a much larger scale. The company, I would say, just had a very grassroots, organic feel to it. You had to be ready to do a lot of different tasks as a fast-growing startup would. You would expect that. And yeah, I think Greg Glassman actually said it quite well, to be ready to train someone for responsibility that you just got 6 months ago. Because that was sort of the rate of transition. It was like, wow, we just implemented something and we have to do something else.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So there was a lot of that for many, many years. Really until I left. I feel like when I left, it was at more steady state for sure. And then I can't speak, of course, to the new ownership and the new structure.
What was like the, not change, but what do you think made CrossFit explode in those years from being more of a startup to this worldwide type of thing? Was there anything specific that you remember?
I think there's a lot of things. I think Greg Glassman, with his methodology, although you could argue that none of it is independently unique or new, right? Like the squat wasn't new, and working out in group X classes wasn't new, and even intensity wasn't new. I think what he did bring was bringing them all together quite well at a time when there was no other competitors. And there was also the rise of the internet. So I think there's so many things that came together quite well. And to cap it all off, it works. That's the real rub. And I think CrossFit's a really interesting marketing research project. And I think it's already been done by some other people. But, you know, through the time that I left, and I think it's even until the new ownership took over, we did not have a marketing department. There was no marketing. And
no way.
To get to the level, and that was just Greg, that was not something he thought was worth the resources. So to imagine the growth on a company that did not do any targeting marketing, the product has to work. The product has to work, and it does.
That is pretty crazy, because you always think of marketing as like the thing, but looking back, I feel like I do remember reading an article from him saying like he thinks word of mouth is the best form of marketing. I remember reading that years ago. So that all kind of that makes sense now thinking about it.
And to be honest, they were some of, I don't know, the early, I'm not a marketing expert, but you know, how did they market? They did content marketing. They put their workouts up. They showed the events, or they showed the actual, effect of their product. And so you could argue that they were doing content marketing, but there was never this, social media, SEO effort. No, that was not happening.
Do you know if CrossFit was unique in the sense like from day one, they put all this stuff out for free, like the workouts they used to do and the hero workouts, like whatever watt it was that day. Is that unique to CrossFit? Were they kind of the first to start that?
They might, I would imagine they're on the earlier end of that. And again, it's hard to tease out what was really different or what's just new to an internet era, right? I think they really hit the timing well as well. And you know, this is not to take anything away from Greg. He was always set on giving out his message and giving out so much for free that I think that was just something he intuitively believed in. But also whether or not that was just very well timed with the internet kind of coming to be as like a strategy that he didn't know would be fruitful, I think might be part of it.
Gotcha. And so 10 years there, you said, correct? 10 years are up. What was the next big life thing for you or transition?
Yeah. So I actually started my second master's. That's the one in nutrition and functional medicine. I think it must have been 2016. I had continuing education requirements for CrossFit. For my job at CrossFit, I needed to continue to do continuing education because of our accreditation. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, what am I really going to do for this requirement? And I found a master's program in nutrition. And I kind of had been doing some nutrition stuff for CrossFit when I had time or when we needed something. And so I was like, well, this looks interesting. And so I started it, not necessarily with the intent of finishing it, just sort of, well, this will fill the requirement and I'd like to know more about it. And of course I liked it and wanted to do it full time. So that's ultimately why I resigned. I wasn't able to kind of devote as much time as I wanted to towards nutrition. And so decided that it was time to leave for a new challenge and change, resigned as I finished up that master's. And I resigned from there June 2017 and finished up the master's at the end of that year.
Did you find anything in the master's program particularly difficult? So if you look at your bachelor's, I know it wasn't the exact same field of study, but for that from your master's, is there, or did you feel there was a huge difference as far as the challenge and the time commitment?
Well, I was working full time and the company was always busy. So plenty of work to be done. But I would say because I had such a large amount of biological sciences in my undergrad and my first master's, that I would say the first year, or maybe even the first 9 months, because it was done in quarters, I didn't have to spend that much time with it. I could kind of do it, you know, quickly in the evenings and know enough. It was more once I got to some of the newer topics and specifically just had some great professors in immunology. She was phenomenal, gastrointestinal stuff, some of the autoimmunity stuff. Yeah. And that's really when I felt, okay, I'm not really giving this what I should be. Yeah. So maybe the second half, whatever that was, the second 9 months or something. Yeah. It was because it was like just under a 2-year program.
Gotcha. And I'm probably super skipping around here, but something I've read in your bio before is how you're a level 4 coach. And I don't know when that came into play, but I don't think people really understand there's very few level 4 coaches. So when did you get that certification? And then if you could kind of explain to the listeners, because some of them are CrossFitters, what it takes to get that level 4.
Yeah, that's a great question. So back in the day, I think it was pre-2010, what you would do in CrossFit is you would go to your level 1, as we all know it to be today, and then you would go to your level 2. And your level 2, you would actually coach in front of their senior staff and you would get a pass or fail grade based on how you did. The level 2, I think, had like a 30% pass rate. It was low. It was a high, it was That's a high fail course. I somehow passed that, thankfully. And so I was an old level 2 in quotes. They realized, though, after doing this and not a very good pass rate, that there was just too much of a jump from that level 1 to the level 2. So they took that one offline and they put out the level 2 that exists today, which is you go and you coach in front of people, but you don't get a pass or fail.
Gotcha.
Actually, I think they now have a test, but it wasn't kind of this live coaching. It was kind of, do you understand the concepts type test? Because we were working on that when I left. And then they still wanted to do this pass or fail in person. And this is part of what I worked on for many years, but it was really hard. How do you design a test that would be live and in person with various athletes that are going to change based on location, and make sure that it's the same for every test taker that comes through? And how do you develop standards between the coaches who are evaluating these people that will withstand accreditation standards to make sure that, you know, if you and I are the evaluators, are we going to evaluate Bob the same exact way? So that took us on a big tangent, working with accreditation standards. How can we do this? And we realized that, oh shoot, computer and video and multiple choice is a little bit easier. And so then the level 3 was born. And so a lot of the concepts that we wanted went into that. And then CrossFit said, we're not willing to give up. We want the live version of this. We still want to see the person actually with people in live action, get a pass or fail grade. And so I don't know that the new level 4 is out. It's been pending for some time, just because it takes so much to be able to kind of do what I said are some of the requirements. But what they did do is they said, for any of these old level 2s who somehow passed back in the pre-2010 era, if you also go on to pass the level 3, we will grandfather you a level 4, because it's effectively what it was. So it's an old relic for people that got a passing grade in a live coaching format pre-2010.
You know what? Maybe this isn't a popular thing to say, but I think it's awesome how you had to go through that, and that there was such a high attrition rate. I used to be a part-time CrossFit coach a while ago, and I remember just going to the level 1. There was so many people there that it was obvious they didn't study at all or put time into it. And a lot of people, even with a level 1, failed. I remember halfway through our class, there was tons of people that were coming in to retake it. So I think personally that's good, because not saying that you have to be the most intelligent, studious person in the world, but I do think there has to be a sense of ownership and pride, knowing that you went into something like this and you cared and you studied. So I personally think that's great. I don't know how you felt about it at the time, but I think it's awesome.
Yeah, there's always been this tug of war, and it's a hard question to solve. And people, as I'm sure you know, in CrossFit have always criticized it that, oh, you can just go get your level 1 and go coach or go up. That's been a criticism since 2006. The problem is a lot of the best coaches came out of that system. So what Greg really wanted to focus on was experience, that we can test you and test you and test you by the book or by a computer, but until you get out there and you work with real people, we don't have anything. And so it's this struggle of, yes, we want people to demonstrate competency. Yes, we want them to be good, but we also value experience. And I think you can say that's true in any field, right? You can keep testing doctors or keep them longer in some sort of med school program and make the boards harder, but everybody wants the doctor who's practiced for 30 years, right? So it's this balance of what can we do for some quality checks, but also allow people to get that experience in a valuable way.
I mean, you walk into a CrossFit class and you see the person leading it. I mean, you know very quickly if that person is experienced. And I'm not even saying that in a bad way. Like, I think of myself day 1 versus, you know, a few years later. It's kind of embarrassing thinking, but I think that experience component is so important. Like, actually getting in front of people, being a little bit uncomfortable, and then having to delegate a whole class of, I don't know, 4 or 5 people all the way up until 20 or 30, depending on what. I think that experience thing is great personally.
Totally. And, you know, I think it's funny, we experience this in every field. I've been to bad doctors. I've been to bad lawyers or legal counsel. I've been to bad restaurants. You know, everybody walks into an establishment and they have to bring their own, what they're looking for and their own judgment of what they're about to do. You know, we can't, there'll never be a perfect system to make sure that everybody is perfect, right?
Right. So it's safe to say that you believe in critical thinking skills.
Yes.
Awesome. So you have your level 4, you're done with CrossFit, you're really into the nutrition thing. Where does, and again, I might be jumping around here, but where does Optimize Me Nutrition come into play with all this?
That's where it came into play. I had resigned, I finished the degree, and the idea was that I was going to start a one-on-one nutrition consulting practice. So, and I wanted to work with people that had these conditions that I went to school for, whether or not that was hormonal or GI or autoimmunity. And I did, and I launched that, and realized probably about a month, 6 weeks in that wasn't for me. So this is early 2018 and I'm thinking, oh shoot, now what? I left a position that I loved for many reasons. Did this degree, not sure I want to use it. And I don't really know what I did. I think for the next year, well, I know what I did. For the next year and a half, I kept Optimize Me Nutrition as this idea. And I launched a few different products, but mostly I was looking for work. I was, oh shoot, I want to give this up. It's not what I want to do. I don't know what to sell. I don't know what to do with it anymore. Get me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. But, it's kind of funny, so it was probably summer 2019 that I finally decided to give Optimize Me Nutrition a full go, but it kind of took me that long to figure out what to sell, which is really embarrassing to say it, because ultimately it took me that long to figure out that I was going to sell education, when after I'd done, undergrad, 2 master's degrees, and at CrossFit helped develop educational programs.
Yeah.
It took me a year and a half of looking for work to figure out, oh, I'm going to sell education.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately what I kind of spun to. And that's really what my products are centered around now. Some type of education. Yeah.
Did you find the business side of all this challenging for you in the beginning, kind of when you started on the entrepreneurship route?
Yeah, for sure. I would still give it up on a heartbeat. I'm still basically a business of one. I use contractors at times, but oh my gosh, I would give that up and you name the date and time. It's done. It's done. I don't love it at all. No.
It's funny. I've asked a few people that on my show the last couple of weeks, and everyone kind of, when I ask that question, they look at me and kind of take a deep breath, and they'll say something like, I have really good assistants that help me with this.
What's so funny about this is, again, I was laughing and it took me so long to figure out the education thing.
Yeah.
For so long and so many years in CrossFit, people would always ask me, why did you never open up an affiliate? Why did you never open up an affiliate? And I would always say, because I didn't want to run the business. I want to, I like coaching, but I didn't want to run the business. And then here I kind of stumbled into opening up a business and I was like, oh my gosh, I did exactly what I didn't want to do.
Yeah, right.
But ultimately, I think, the message and the topic fits well. So there's more of an incentive to do it. Yeah.
The gym that I worked at, the affiliate, the owner, who was fantastic, I'm really close to them to this day. He said like his dream would kind of be, being a head coach and not really worried about the business aspect. Like totally. he wasn't a huge fan of that part either. So that reminded me of that. Totally. As far as Optimize Me Nutrition, what are the different things you offer in your educational courses, or what type of educational courses are they?
Yeah. There basically are 3 different courses that are offered in a variety of formats. So I've got the 800-gram challenge, which is kind of eat more fruits and veggies. I've got lazy macros, which builds on that. Eat your fruits and veggies, now have some protein. And then I have my master class, which is, okay, we're going to learn this backwards and forwards. But that's offered in lots of different ways. Individuals can sign up just to do their own learning.
Yep.
Groups like gyms can sign up as a challenge, and that's certainly been a large part of what I've sold. And then also corporate wellness programs can sign up. So it's kind of either group or individual based formats for the first 2, 800-gram challenge and lazy macros. And then the master class is really just for the individuals that want to kind of take a deep dive. Yep. And I've also, though, had a lot of health coaches sign up for that. So it's not just people learning for themselves, it's also then learning how to work with other people in the nutrition space. So those are the main educational products. And then I guess I would say, in addition to that, I have some subscription content off my podcast, but that's just kind of more audio deep dives than necessarily a class per se.
Gotcha. And with the 800-gram challenge, did that start in 2019 as well? Or when was that a thing?
It technically started personally in 2017. So as I was finishing up that master's is when I found the study that kind of tipped off the idea as a diet idea. But I was at CrossFit Roots in Boulder, Colorado at the time, and they were going to run a nutrition challenge, and the owner was willing for me to run that one for them. So they were the first official gym to run it in January 2018. And that's when I would say, even though I was still looking for work, I was testing out the 800-gram challenge model for gym challenges and kind of pushed that along for the first kind of year and a half, in addition to this scrambling for work. Because I liked the idea. I liked the concept, and then helped other gyms kind of get on board.
Yeah, I really loved that challenge. Our gym actually did it. And
Oh, cool.
the reason, and this is a couple years ago, the reason I knew that it was impactful, because a gym has all types of people. Some are a little bit more committed than others in different respects. A certain member came up to me after the gym owner decided that we're all going to do the challenge. And he said, "This is the first time that I've ever participated in any type of nutrition challenge." And he said, everything else is way too restrictive. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of first, it's in my head. I'm like, come on, like, like kind of suck it up a little bit,
Right.
but when he said that, I realized how impactful the challenge was, because him just saying it's not restrictive. And I'm like, there's like even psychology behind it. It seems like doing that, you're eating more fruits and vegetables, you're getting a little bit more full because of the volume of what you're eating, that it could actually help people lose weight and be a little bit healthier, but they don't even really view it as a diet. Was that kind of part of the mindset when you created that?
It was. There's actually, so I had been playing with a couple different ideas at the time of this whole idea of measuring quality in the diet. When people say they're eating healthier, when they're eating clean, what does that really mean?
Right.
So that was sort of floating in the back of my mind. And I was playing with some different concepts. There's a cheery book called How Not to Die. I think it's by Michael Greger or something like that.
Yeah.
And he has this concept, I'm not going to get it wrong, but it's 10 or 12 foods that you're supposed to eat every day. And they're basically fruits and veggies.
Yeah.
And he gives a certain amount. And I was like, I tried it. And first of all, it was too much food for me. And I'm 6 feet tall. So I was like, okay, wow, this is a lot. And then two, it was very specific. It was like every day you have to have a quarter cup of fresh herbs or something. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I just don't have cilantro today. Like, it's just not,
Yeah.
I'm flying to Texas. Like, I just don't have cilantro today.
Yeah.
So I kind of tried that concept, but I liked this idea of adding and just focusing on what to add. So that was sort of floating in the back of my mind when I came across this study that associated 800 grams with decreased risk of mortality and stroke and cancer and all this stuff. And so that's when I was like, interesting, let me try that. And so I started playing with that. So I certainly had this idea of adding without restricting, but it has been interesting to see how it's played out with other people doing it, because I definitely hear more of that than I expected. Like, I was like, oh, this is a cool side benefit, but I hear that a lot. Like, oh, wow, this really flips the script on dieting. So it was planned, but it's getting more of a response than I planned for. Yeah.
And to this day, most of the time, do you try to eat around that range, the 800 gram of fruit? Still do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, since I started it in 2017, personally, I've been doing it now. I'm not perfect, but I use this tracker on my consistency project, and, basically over 90% of days, 91, 92% of days, I do the 800 gram challenge. Yeah.
Man, you just feel so much better when you're consuming just whole foods, fruits and vegetables. At least for me, like I normally have fruits and vegetables every day, but when I was doing the challenge, when I was like actually making sure, I felt so great the entire time. My energy levels felt better. My endurance felt better. And like everything felt better when I was doing it.
That's
It was
good to
great.
hear. That's to be honest, out of the CrossFit space, because that's who first took it on based on my background, that was the most common response. It wasn't weight loss, although I certainly have those people. It was definitely energy is up, recovery is better, just feel better overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, you align quite well.
Awesome. And you mentioned the consistency project. Can you kind of tell the listeners a little bit what that is?
Yeah, it's the name of my podcast, but I kind of have this sister project to it, which is very simple. You're not going to be wowed by the tech, leaderboard, where people just say every day, yes or no. Did they have the 800 gram challenge? Did they have enough protein? Did they exercise and sleep? And the idea is these are the big factors. We could probably put stress in that bucket as well, but not an easy way to measure it. These are the big factors that I'd love for people to focus on. And I think there's so much in the nutrition space where people worried about timing or supplements, and then they're nowhere close to 800 grams of fruits and vegetables. They're nowhere close to their protein target. They haven't worked out in a week, and they're worried about whether or not they should have BCAAs. And you're just like, okay, this isn't it. This isn't it, right? So and the stats on people in terms of what we have in our society, and in terms of either being overweight or obese, or the number of fruits and veggies people are consuming, or sleep or exercise, it's just like, guys, we need to focus on this stuff. This is where the magic is. And so that's the whole idea, is both through the podcast and with this tracker and my other products, is like really just hammering the basics. Cause I think that's where the magic is for most people.
And with the leaderboard that you're talking about, do people just sign up for that, or how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's just free. It's off my website. Like I said, the tech it's mobile friendly, but it's not a sleek app. And it's literally, I made it a point to make sure I logged every day for a year because I wanted to see what a score looked like. Basically, you get ranked out of 4 points of how you do. And so I also wanted to see what was kind of doable or feasible. But the idea is, this is one of the things I struggle a lot with tech. I like apps only to the point that they help drive behavior change. I don't actually need to know that I ate, 85 grams of green beans last Tuesday. Like, I'm not doing data mining to figure out, what's going on, the last months. I just need to know that I actually ate the fruits and veggies, that I actually did the workout.
Right.
And so I think sometimes with these apps, they can be so burdensome because we're logging every little aspect of our life, when really it just needs to be this kind of focus through the day or mental check. Like, did I do it? Did I do it? And for me, there's huge value there. Of course, I was consistent with some of the principles already, but really making it a focus for sleep, I was able to uptick sleep a little bit. So even, somebody who's doing this relatively consistently, there's benefit in just sort of, being honest about checking in with those things.
And I love the leaderboard idea, because I feel like competitive people are going to love that, for one. And then two, someone that might not be competitive, it could kind of help with their behavior change if they see the momentum going, seeing how many days are consistent. And so that's a really, really cool tool that I'm definitely going to link for all the listeners to sign up for after the show, for sure.
Very cool. Thank you. I've looked into various tech ideas, but I interviewed some of the people that are more consistent on it. And, they actually just really like seeing their own consistency, because in each group, it'll show you, like I'm 91% consistent in the 800-gram challenge, and I'm 64% consistent in sleep. So they can see which area they need to bring up. So there's that too.
And kind of transitioning here, how was being on the TED Talk? How was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was a TEDx talk, so it wasn't officially the big TED Talks, but it was great. It was in Boulder. What's funny about that is I don't know if people know how many times I practiced that. It's great. I had somebody tell me, "Oh, you looked so calm and natural. It's like you were just giving it in your backyard." And I was like, well, I gave it no less than 200 times. I gave it backwards to forwards. I said it loud with TV on the backgrounds. I said it slow. I said it fast. I dragged my friend to the gym for her to shine light in my eyes at night, with like a spotlight. I did it all.
Yeah.
So it was great. I'm glad it ended up going well, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into that, for sure.
How many people were in the audience listening to you?
I think 2,000.
Oh, there's that many at the TEDx's?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the venue. This one was at the Boulder Theater. So it was about 2,000.
Tell me about walking up on stage, like how that felt, if your nerves were going, if your heart was pumping, kind of tell people. I think this is really important, because the thought of doing something like that, it's going to scare people away from not doing it. And I think that hinders people's progression so much throughout whatever facet is that they're doing. So can you explain what you felt personally as you were going up onto stage?
Certainly nervous. A little jittery, down in the back where all the speakers were. I was just pacing. So there's, 4 or 5 rooms that we were kind of spread out in, and I was just sort of walking among all of them. I probably got 10,000 steps in.
There you go.
But I kind of want to link this a little bit to my CrossFit seminar experience. People would tell the staff, us all the time, you guys are so eloquent, and it looks like you're having so much fun, and it looks so natural. And you're thinking to yourself, yes, I've given this lecture no less than 100 times, not including the practice rounds, 100 times live, And so I think for people that get nervous around that stuff is the people that look natural are generally not off the cuff. I think there's very few speakers in that type of environment, especially that's timed, that are off the cuff at all. Because if you try to be cool and you try to be real natural, it's going to look flat. And why I like to rehearse things so many times, and this included my CrossFit lectures, is when you are not worried about what you're about to say, you can actually see the audience and you can respond to them. And this is true with coaching. When you're not thinking about, oh shoot, I have to say, get your hips below your knees or push your knees out. You just know what you're looking for. Right. You can see who's struggling. You can see who's engaged. You can see who's bored. And so the same thing was true with the TEDx is, yes, I had nerves for sure, but I had said it so many times that I could see the audience and I could wait for the laughs, or I could, see if they were engaged with me. Not that I could do much more about it, but it certainly makes it a better, I think, overall experience.
Yeah, I think that preparation is just so key. I'm the same way. I'll rehearse something 1,000 times before I get up and do something. So that's awesome. Totally. And now I'm really excited. Let's talk a little bit kind of toward the end of the show here about nutrition. I love kind of geeking out on the science behind it and hearing from experts about it. So we'll start with what are some of the biggest myths in nutrition that the general population can't really, I guess, let go of?
Yeah. I think one of the big ones is there's a lot right now. There's a push for personalized nutrition. Everything for me is so different than everything for you. It's different in the sense of my preferences or some habits. It's not different in terms of the physiology. So you and I both need vitamin A. You and I both need vitamin E. We both need vitamin D. We can go down this list of all the things that we need. We need an adequate amount of quality. We need a certain amount of protein. We can't eat too much food. And so I think people get really lost in this idea of, well, shoot, I'm so different. I'm such a unique snowflake. I need a totally different nutrition plan than everyone else. Nothing is going to work for me. I need something that's so radically unique. Yeah. No, it's radically unique because you like salmon and I like chicken. That's it. But it's kind of, we're all going to really thrive with some variation of mostly whole unprocessed foods. So I'd love for that to go away. And to be honest, I think a lot of that is a marketing ploy. That you're going to get this super quote personalized nutrition plan. And at the end of the day, most of us are eating lean proteins, lots of fruits and veggies, It's like, guys, this isn't that unique. This isn't that unique.
Do you think a lot of people that are maybe struggling with their nutrition, do you think many of them are even, sleeping, they're eating whole meals, lots of fruits and vegetables? Do you think the basics have kind of, I guess, gone away for a lot of people?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, the stats, I always say 80% of people aren't eating enough fruits and veggies. The new USDA report puts it closer to 90%. Wow. I mean, people are, again, so worried about BCAAs or whether or not they're doing tempo squats. And it's like, guys, we're not even in the realm of worrying about that, right? We're not even in the realm. And the USDA standards aren't even the 800 gram challenge. They typically are closer to 600 or 700 grams, depends. The way they measure it's a little bit different, but it's just like, we're not doing the basics. We are not doing the basics at all. And I was in that camp too. Like I say this so preachy, and I don't mean it to be that way at all. I was caught up in these fads of never eating a banana and, never having rice or whatever it was, thinking I was, saving myself. So.
And do you personally, not get in arguments, but say online, there's someone that's a keto or carnivore zealot and they're trying to say insulin is the enemy and it doesn't matter about calories, all those people. Oh, yeah. Do you interact with those people? Because like sometimes, when I'm viewing from afar, I see these arguments online and it's people just going back and forth, calling each other names. Like, what do you personally do in those situations?
Yeah, I've yet to see anybody win an internet argument. So I don't engage. And, part of my whole thing about nutrition is, look, I don't really like telling you what to do. If you're stoked on keto, and guess what? People have success with keto. And if you're stoked on carnivore even, look, do you. I'll give you my input. And if you want it, great. And if you don't, you know how to unfollow. It's just sort of. And I'll even have that sometimes with comments or stuff that are a little bit, you can tell they're not questioning for knowledge. They're questioning to kind of poke the bear a little bit. And I just don't engage because it's like, well, I've already said my opinion. You don't agree. I'm happy. Like if we were able to have a discussion like this, I'm happy to go back and forth. Unfortunately, the medium just doesn't allow for that. Right. So to me, I don't get really involved, and nor do I really try to go after people. Sometimes if I do a book review, I'll give my opinion on something, but I don't see value of that either. There's plenty of diets out there that I don't agree with on a physiological level, but have helped a lot of people. So I might not agree that keto, for all of its marketing things is the reason why people should do it. But yet if people lose 50 pounds from it, great. Who am I to say that my method's better?
Right. Yeah. And I just asked because, I remember we had coaches in the gym that would tell our gym, You can't lose weight necessarily unless you do carnivore. Vegetables are going to kill you. Carbohydrates raise your insulin. It automatically means you're going to get fat. So it's like, do you stand up for the truth, or do you know that getting into arguments, no one ever wins? So that's why I asked how you personally handle that, because I'm sure you get it from time to time. So
it's hard. I mean, I agree. It's hard when I hear stuff and, people I'll see that I'm connected to or whatever, and I don't agree with their opinion. But until I'm asked, I don't really give my opinion. And I consider if people opt into my content, they've asked.
Yeah, gotcha. And if you were to give, I know this is very ambiguous, but someone that doesn't know much about nutrition and they want to start eating healthy, whatever that means, if you were to give, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 very general tips where someone can start that doesn't understand how to eat properly, quote unquote.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is going to be on brand, but I would only recommend one, and that's the 800-gram challenge. And that's to eat 800 grams by weight of the fruits and veggies of their choice, and not worry about anything else. Not that they don't eat anything else, that they continue to eat whatever else they want. And for the people that are scared away by the scale, no worries. We're going to use your closed fist. A closed fist is about a cup. I need you to hit 6 cups a day, and you're going to get pretty close to 800 grams. And I would love for people just to focus on just that. And I think that's going to get a lot of results. Maybe not for all of our CrossFitters who have a little bit more performance angle, but for the mainstream out there, I think it's huge. And I would love it if that's what people focused on.
Awesome. And one more question for you. So on the show, our big thing about being mission driven, we empower and equip people to take action with their life. That's the big thing here. And so you have very obviously lived a very mission driven life from years and years ago, all the way up until sitting right here. So why did you choose to live such a mission-driven life?
Wow. I'm not sure. This is probably one I would need to think about a little bit more. I don't know. I guess I've seen the results by acting myself, right? You see the positive response from yourself doing exercise regularly, or sleeping regularly, or studying regularly, or whatever it is. And so helping people make those changes, I think is really great. And so, I would have to say it's almost a greedy reason that I've seen the ability of the power of it. And so that's why I've chosen to live that way.
And where can people connect with you? Or if they want to purchase some of your educational courses, where can they do all those things?
OptimizeMeNutrition.com. On social, it's the same, Optimize Me Nutrition. And then, of course, the podcast is the Consistency Project.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link all those in the show description. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Mission Driven Made podcast. If you found value in the episode today, or it made you think a little bit more, which I know it did, go ahead and subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review. And EC, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be on the show. I know you brought tons of value to the listeners today. And until next time, everyone, stay mission driven. And done.